I will hurt you for this.
I am the sword in the darkness.
Lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of the sheep.
Let me give you some advice, bastard.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.
A raven has told Rhaenyra that her son is dead. She needs to know it for certain.
She was a fool to go alone. What if Aemond were to happen upon her?
Then I would pity Aemond.
If you'd have acted when you had the chance, Aegon's line would be extinguished. And Luke would be alive.
What is up, everybody? Jeremy Eisenfire here, and welcome to the channel. With House of the Dragon less than 2 weeks away now, we are continuing to see promotional material being released. And today, we got an exclusive sneak peek at the Season 2 premiere in the form of a very intriguing scene between Daemon and Rhaenys Targaryen, along with some very intriguing info as to what we can expect from Daemon's character in Season 2, and some of the things that he will be struggling with along the way. The preview scene starts off with Rhaenys informing Daemon that Rhaenyra has taken off to find Luke's body, alone, stating that a raven had just arrived informing her of the death of her son, and that she needs to be certain herself. With Daemon, of course, being worried that she went off alone, fearing that Aemond could potentially fall upon her. And I really love Rhaenys' response to this, stating how if that were to happen, then she would pity Aemond. And Eve Best's performance as Rhaenys has been phenomenal up until this point, and I really hope we get to see a good amount of her within the first half of Season 2, especially considering where the season is most likely heading. But next, we get a very interesting response from Daemon as well, stating how if Rhaenys hadn't have hesitated, then Aegon's line would be extinguished and Luke would still be alive. Which, of course, is referring to the scene in Season 1, Episode 9, where Rhaenys burst through the floor in the dragon pit, killing dozens, if not hundreds of small folk, yet failing to roast the Greens and stopping the war before it starts. And of course, this scene is filled with problems from conception to realization, but for me, my biggest problem is not exactly Rhaenys failing to roast the Greens. And the explanation that Ryan Condal gives for this actually makes a lot of sense when I thought about it. How Rhaenys and Alicent shared a moment looking at each other, and how Rhaenys' motherly instinct won out in that moment, not wanting to kill her children in front of her. And this, of course, is coming after Rhaenys lost not one, but 2 children, as far as she knows, with not only the death of Rhaena, but with her also thinking she lost Laenor as well, not knowing that he faked his death. So with that in mind, I can totally understand why Rhaenys' motherly instinct won out in that moment. I think the biggest problem with that scene as a whole is Rhaenys bursting through the floor in the first place and killing dozens, if not hundreds of small folk, when there are multiple other entrances and exits to the dragon pit. And of course, Rhaenys not wanting to contribute to plunging the entire realm into all-out war is understandable as well. But overall, it was a phenomenal sneak peek to the first episode of Season 2, and I cannot wait for the premiere to get here, especially considering some of the other comments that Matt Smith made on Daemon Targaryen's character, stating that we will see a much weaker Daemon in Season 2 than we saw in Season 1, stating that he gets softer, lazier, even fatter, and is haunted by some of the demons of his past, and some of the misdeeds that he has done. And I get the feeling there will be multiple things contributing to this for Daemon in Season 2. And I think one of these things that he will be dealing with in Season 2 is the death of his brother Viserys, and how he wishes he could have done some things differently when he was alive. We saw that Daemon and Viserys, for the most part, had a brotherly relationship, but it was not without its problems. The two were often quarreling, making up, only to quarrel again. Ultimately, when Viserys did eventually die, the two were on good terms. But I have to imagine that still leaves Daemon with a ton of guilt thinking of how things could have been had he made different choices. And Matt Smith also goes on to state that a lot of what he does as Daemon, he does with Viserys in mind. Another thing I think Daemon could be grappling with in Season 2 is the fallout of Blood and Cheese, and how it could potentially be affecting him in ways he didn't anticipate. Blood and Cheese is, after all, a very horrible deed that gets portrayed very early on in Season 2, largely in part thanks to Daemon putting the entire thing in motion, and I get the feeling this could be one of those demons that he is struggling with in Season 2. And with Daemon being a father himself, I could totally understand him feeling a little bit of the effects of making such a dark decision, especially one that is visited upon children. So maybe the aftermath of Blood and Cheese will have a bigger impact on the narrative than we originally thought. There is also the Alys Rivers effect that I think could potentially be affecting Daemon in Season 2. And while this does kind of go against everything that Daemon is in Fire and Blood, when it comes to Alys Rivers, she is very adept at influencing people and using her womanly charms to get what she wants. But it is also stated that Daemon is the only character that seems to be resistant to her charms. And it looks like they are throwing that out of the window for the show, as it seems like Daemon is going to be having some weird dreams or weird hallucinations while he is at Harrenhal, and I get the feeling this could potentially be under Alys Rivers' influence. Alys Rivers herself, of course, is a big mystery and someone we don't know a whole lot about, and certainly don't know a lot about her origins. It is stated that she is a wet nurse from Harrenhal and was a wet nurse to Lord Lionel's children, and potentially, according to Mushroom, may be a wet nurse to Lord Lionel himself, which, if true, would make Alys far more older than she appears. She is also referred to as a Woods Witch, and will be the love interest of Daemon Targaryen on House of the Dragon, and she herself has also displayed magical abilities in the past as well, including being able to see visions in not only the fire, but pools of water, and in storm clouds as well. So it looks like we are gearing up to have some very intriguing scenes between Alys Rivers and Daemon in Harrenhal in Season 2, and it looks like Daemon is not going to be as resistant to her charms on the show as he was in the book. But overall, it was a nice preview of the Season 2 premiere, and a nice insight into Daemon's character in Season 2 and some of the struggles that he will be dealing with. Season 2 is less than 2 weeks away now, and we will be covering all things House of the Dragon, so if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to leave a like on your way out, and consider subscribing to stay up to date on all of our upcoming videos. And as always, I want to give a big thank you to everybody out there for watching, and we will see you on the next one.
We must break the will of our enemy and end this war.
The Crown will pursue victory at any cost.
The realm's only hope is in a leader strong enough to unite it.
You must see in me a ruler. And the symbols of authority are not jewels and gowns, but the shield and the sword.